Hey everyone, this is Rangadad. Not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. Sorry, the sound's a little funny today. I don't have my normal setup. It's on the road again. Um, and yeah, been a bit absent. Lots of travel and trying to settle into Thailand. So, uh, figured I'd do a quick video though, because we got obviously some pretty interesting price movement, good movement for Bitcoin. Um, and I'll have a go at trying to predict where we might stop. And there's two key levels that I'm looking at the moment. Um, Basically, this horizontal level we've actually had on here for quite a while. This is total crypto market cap versus USD, well, versus stable coins, the main stable coins. And as anyone who has followed me for a while knows, this thick green line is basically the bull market support line. And we broke down below that, basically confirmed a bear market in end of March. And since then, we've kind of held up a little bit better than I expected, actually. Even on these big drops, this particular run, if we come back inside and actually confirm above that bullish control line there, and the reason I say it's a bullish control line, it's literally supported the entire bull run since the very start. And for some reason it doesn't like loading historical data when you're on the shorter time frames. But yeah, ever since the start there, this particular bull run, this line has been support. And if we look at history, similar lines have been basically the same thing. Bull market support line broke down from that in April 2021, and basically that was the start of the bear market. That was the first top of the last run. This was the second top. Again, that was actually a good top there from that trend line as well. But as soon as we broke down and confirmed that break, that was the start of the proper big bear market on Bitcoin in particular. So what do we got going on here? Basically, we've got an interesting test of this horizontal support line here. And it's a region. Don't think of it as a particular line. We are at the moment above the daily 50 moving average on this as well. And that is going to be significant. We haven't actually tested that since back up here when we basically confirmed that we had reached a high back in here. So this test will be very interesting. Typically, you don't break these moving averages on the first try, particularly on the higher time frames. But Bitcoin can do Bitcoin things, and on the daily for total crypto versus stables, we are actually we've got a setup here where stochastic momentum's above the signal line, and BBWP is actually just starting to increase. Now, that's typically not a bad setup. Just bear in mind, though, we had a similar setup here on the break, and that was a break of the bull market support line, but we couldn't hold it, and BBWP continued to sort of go sideways, and once it did increase, we were squarely momentum to the downside, and that led to a big move to the downside. So got to be a bit careful here. It can stay in this bullish control zone for a while as well. So we could be here, for instance, and it could just keep going. Do I think that's where we are? Not really, just because statistically this here is going to be a very big resistance zone. Like we haven't ever gone, once we've broken one of these bull market support lines, we've never actually, like to the downside, we've never really confirmed and gone back to new all-time highs after that. So doesn't mean Bitcoin can't put in an all-time high, but it just means you're going to have to be careful because pumps could be met with pretty quick sell-offs. So take profits along the way, 1 foot out the door. I've got a fair few longs open at the moment, but I've already put my stop losses into profit and just going to let them ride. My Bitcoin price target is basically around 92. The reason is we've got this value area low here. The value area low and the point of control and the value area high have all been really important support and resistance levels for us in the past. So that's where I think we might start to struggle. There is a chance we actually get up to 96. There is a bit of vector candle recovery on the way up there. I don't know that we'll get to 100k, or that's basically where the value area high is. We could do it. There's going to be a lot of FOMO happening around then, and if we get there, then I'd say that's probably going to be the top. That'll be a pretty big reach from where we are, given what's going on in the global financial system at the moment. And that's the other thing that concerns me. And that's why I have 1 foot out the door, because there is just so much uncertainty out there, and it's a tinderbox just waiting to go off. We are getting a lot of altcoins running at the moment as well. So ETH doesn't look like it because it's a pile of turds this cycle. But there has been a lot of good movement, and probably better movement than Bitcoin, on a lot of the altcoins, particularly the good ones, like Sol's having a good run. It confirmed today another close just above the 50 EMA on the daily. And we've since bounced from there, which is really good. And that's a touch on the 9 EMA as well, which is a solid support line for a bull run. What I'm looking at for Sol is this vector candle recovery here. And you've also got the 200 EMA on the daily coming in at 163. So I've actually got to take profit on the Sol trades at 159 just to make sure. But it's been so choppy. I've been trying to take longs, and I've moved stop losses into profit and basically made a few dollars here and there because it's just chopped around so much on the shorter time frames, which to me suggests there's not. I don't think this is a run where we're going to go into new all-time highs. Could be completely wrong. I'm just going to let the price action show me the way on that. But look, it is a reasonable move. It is supported by a lot of alts, and that's why total actually moved earlier than Bitcoin, because altcoins were sort of running at the same time. So what I'd really like to see is a daily close above that 50 EMA on total versus stables, and then that's probably your target there. Doesn't have to get up there, but that would be another take profit level. It actually would be a big take profit level. If I haven't hit any of my other take profits by the time we get to there, I will be taking profit regardless. So just wanted to go into this first. So this hasn't really changed much since I last did a video. The smart money's still pretty bullish here. They haven't really started to take much profits. Dumb money's still scared. So, and this pullback that's happening on the NAS and the SPY at the moment is hitting some reasonable fib levels. So just be careful of that. We're getting to some pretty decent buy levels on those, but at the same time, we could actually slip and break to new lows. And that's why, again, 1 foot out the door. I probably wouldn't try and predict the lows in this market as well, because you could get torn a new one. But interestingly, one thing I wanted to point out, as you guys probably know, I like to follow FX Evolution. He's got a lot of really good data, and I strongly recommend his videos to anyone. He had some interesting data around gold and when gold tops, especially after big statistical moves to the upside on gold. When it hits these key levels of sort of percentage moves, it tends to drop off, and Bitcoin then goes on a run, and we're actually seeing that happening right now in front of us. So gold probably to pull back, in which case I would actually expect to see stocks do okay from here as well. So there's a lot of confluence building at the moment to stocks and Bitcoin actually going up. And it could be an extended run. I'm not convinced of that yet. Obviously, I'm trading to the upside, and actually, as we speak, just going to move my stop loss to the bottom of this current 15-minute candle. Just because we've had another decent push. All right. Jesus Christ, that took forever to load. I thought I'd lost my position there. Anyway, nearly done. Sol's been particularly freaking violent with its retracements in this move. Oops. So yeah, watch out for altcoins. Seen some dump, like they've gone up 100% and dumped at least 50% of that today already. Where was I? Okay, yeah. So gold likely to pull back from here. Actually, still like this area for buy zone, about 2,800 on gold. We could actually get a bounce off this top trend line though. That's a pretty strong trend line as well. All right, I'll go back to these. So a bit of dark pool activity here. There was a pretty decent 78th largest dark pool transaction just before this pump. And look, these were obviously pretty good buys around the bottom. I still think some of these would probably take profits through here, and we still haven't seen the volume come through that we saw during the all-time highs. So I still don't, I'm not looking at this as new all-time highs by any means. See the volume that came through it around the top there. I would expect, if anything, on IBIT we could get to this level here, which is around, where's that, 59.86. No, it's not. 53.70. So around that on IBIT is probably going to be a pretty good target for a top. I'd expect a fair bit of take profit around there. Again, could be wrong. they're still getting money flow into the ETFs, but it's just the way I'm leaning at the moment, based on all the other stuff going on with total versus stable coins. Again, Coinbase never really dropped a huge amount. I guess it was 25% down on that drop, but it's been pretty stable. So that gave me a little bit of confidence that we had a bit more upside left. Mara, especially Sol confirming above the 50 MA was actually gave me a lot of confidence that Bitcoin was going to go as well. Bitcoin didn't have the same sort of structure on it that I was liking. So XLY, XLP. So Mara didn't really have much on it. XLP looks like potentially a decent take profit there. It's still sort of struggling to make new highs. And this is the thing with crypto at the moment. We could just get a little blow off top happening here, and then it goes down with the rest of the market, because the rest of the market's at pretty critical levels as well. So consumer discretionary is still pretty low, although that's a pretty decent trade, lit trade as well. And it's happening at a okay level where there's been other sort of supporting trades. That could suggest we're going to go on a bit of a run on stocks as well. So XLK again making sort of higher lows, and again at or above the levels that we had some sweeps, dark pool sweeps as well. Typically sweeps are people trying to get in and not miss something, so they can be common turning points in markets. This is a little concerning. So financial sector, we've got to be careful of the financial sector. In the previous videos I've been harping on about, hasn't really been any sort of major news that would sort of suggest that there's a black swan event happening. And that's kind of what we're waiting for to really trigger a big sell-off. And I'm sort of still leaning towards the potential that we get 3 to 6 months from here of sort of just sideways and maybe up, and never ruling out a new all-time high on markets before we get the final drop as well, which the same sort of things happened around the dot-com bust. XLE, that's holding a bottom as well. This is actually a pretty good bottoming signal on XLE, which should see oil go up as well. Oil did go on a run but pulled back. XME, not a bad sort of bottoming structure there as well. These have been beaten down pretty hard over the last year or so. Utilities, it's a defensive one. Again, looks like it's finding some support around some pretty big dark pool trades. Kind of aligning with a bit more upside. One thing I've been watching, and guys in the Discord channels will know this, is I've been watching spot cumulative volume delta in particular. It, after the sort of the run up, it was supporting this move to the upside, and it never really dropped off too much until we got to here, and it dropped off quite a bit. A lot of sort of take profit, I think, from the guys that were buying in here spot. But futures actually kept going and just kept building and building and building. And to me, that suggests if it's driven by futures, it may not be a real pump, yes. And that's kind of why I'm leaning towards not being a new all-time high. Another reason why I'm leaning towards that. So watching this a bit carefully. Spot has obviously come with it here, but the guys that are trading spot are actually, they seem to be taking profit a lot earlier. And yeah, the market, the price is being driven by futures at the moment because yeah, spot CBDs hasn't even got to new highs versus this level here yet. So what I'm watching for, generally when we're getting this much red on the bid-ask delta, that can lead to pullbacks as well, especially once the red starts to drop off and starts to change to green. That can be a sign that you're topping off. Probably a bit easier to see on the 1 hour here. You can see spot has kind of, it looks like it's basing, but it's not giving me hope that this is going to be a big start of a major bull run. When was the last time we did have that? Nah, it doesn't go back far enough. You can see spot's been dropping pretty hard ever since this first little peak here. But yeah, never short of dull market. Forgot to say that last time in the discords, but this sort of thing here is fairly typical for more upside. Just Bitcoin looks like it's going to drop, looks like it's going to fake out, and then just grinds its way up. So that's why I was trying to take longs through here and just kept getting my trailing stop hit. In terms of liquidation levels, we're going pretty good on this one. We hit. What did we hit? We hit 90,476. And we are starting to pull back a little bit. Just on the 15-minute candle though. It's nearing the end of an hourly candle. Typically the 15-minute candle at the end after a long run up, typically that candle will be will have a wick to the upside. But it's still looking pretty strong. So we actually have to go out to the 3 months to really see the liquidity above this level. And there is a bit of a gap. So 91.70 and then actually not a lot around the 92.300, which is kind of where I was expecting us to go just based on that value area low. So if we keep pushing here, it actually increases the chances that we do get up into sort of the 96, 97, and maybe even the 100k level. If we hit the 100k level, as I said, I think that'll pull back pretty hard from there. There's not a lot above it. And that'll be a pretty big run up. Typically, Bitcoin will need to take a rest after that these days. But that's a long way from here. I'd definitely be looking for sort of signs of tops, at least short-term tops. You can always get back in if you like a pullback level, or you can just trailing stop it and try and ride it. But trailing stops are really hard with crypto. Swings are massive. All right, I'll get back to this. So gold hit, what was its high? Yeah, it's 3,499 and 94 cents. Look, there's a chance it'll just get up into 35k just to, or even 3,600 is a possibility. But I am expecting gold to pull back in the next couple of days, at least this week. Qs. Yeah, so Qs, if we look at the fib retracement, The Q's almost hit the 618. That's not a bad level for a bounce. If you took it to the bodies, then technically it probably did. Yeah, say the 618 if you just use the bodies of the candles. Not a bad level, but it still hasn't really confirmed any major upside momentum change or anything. It's still sitting below even the short moving averages, 13 EMA and stuff like that. I do expect it to come up and hit probably the 50 and the 200 still, and I've said that over the last few weeks. Still think these two are going to be critical though. I would expect to pull back after that. Unless something comes out, Trump, stops talking and stuff, and markets actually have some clarity and they can basically move. Like the markets are skittish because one, earnings are being revised down by most companies at the moment. You've got all this tariff war stuff going on, and there's just no certainty in the market. And it's times like that when the market doesn't like it. And we know that there's some structural issues that were occurring across the top. We've been talking about them for months. And this seems to be the start of that sort of playing out. But there's always going to be bounces along the way down. So, yeah, NAS momentum's actually shifted to the downside, but it's not really in a critical zone. If NAS and SPY have a good day today and actually can close even above yesterday's candle, then this momentum will potentially shift back up. Volatility's high, so that could quite quickly shift into a bullish control and go up. But at this stage, you've got to be really careful because the largest trade on one of the, I think it was the NAS and the SPY ETFs, happened basically at the top of this candle here, and we've gone down since then. So be careful still. It's not necessarily something where you want to be buying long term at this point. Equal weight only got to the 50.5 fib. But yeah, equal weight's still, like, this is a pretty typical break, retest, continuation sort of pattern here on most of these big ETFs. As we pointed out, it is a pretty reasonable area for these to find a little bit of support and potentially chop sideways and go up a little bit for the next month or two. May will be very interesting. The typical sell in May and go away thing may still happen this year, in which case you're probably going to be making new lows. Yeah, these wicks down here are pretty attractive for price. Definitely not convinced by this yet, but there's some underlying things like the gold. If gold does start to come down and the dollar doesn't necessarily spike back up, then there is a bit of room to move for SPY and NASDAQ and stocks in general. So even IWMs potentially. IWM actually looks a little bit stronger than the rest of them, to be honest. Global liquidity is still kind of edging sideways and up as well, which should provide some support. A little bit of a downtick today, which got to be careful of, but it's not showing any signs that we should be going down quickly soon. XLY, XLP. This is a bit of an issue for me. XLY versus XLP is kind of broken this low again. And it's potentially going to come towards this vector candle. That to me actually suggests there is room to move to the downside. So XLY, XLP is not coming with, along with the suggestion that market should go up at the moment. That could change, but just not happening. And the other one is XLP versus SPY. We have broken back above this key resistance level. That, again, stocks could come up, and we need to retest this. I'd prefer a proper retest of this. So stocks come up, this comes down, and then stocks will find resistance around the same time, and then this can go back up to the upside. Doesn't have to do that. This doesn't necessarily retest things as well as what normal stocks will, but it's still, this doesn't look like it's finished to the upside yet. And if this is moving to the upside, then stocks are coming down. And we've got to be careful of that for Bitcoin as well. It has been fairly correlated on the dips. Oh man, equal weight XOY XLP is telling a slightly different story here, in that it never actually broke this low. And this is why I look at the equal weights. I actually pay more heed to the equal weights than I do the regular XLP and XLY. Still not out of the woods by any means, but the fact that it didn't really close below this previous candle here, that gives us a little bit of hope. Same thing here with equal weight XLP versus SPY. Probably looking for that to come back down again, but at the same time, this one did actually break a key level, came back down, retested that break, and has moved up. So there's still a chance that this will come up into this region here. So I'm thinking volatility's not quite done yet, based on what I'm seeing. Regional banks, they bounced pretty well off that trend. Will they get back up to here? Maybe, but geez, they got a lot of work to do to get there. XLF is actually retested that 200 and broken back down to the downside, and it's retested this break of this key horizontal level. Should put that in there, but that's a pretty key level there. Need to get back above that level soon if we are expecting an extended run to the upside. At the moment, it doesn't look like that will be happening. This still looks terrible. ITB, home construction. It's come back around into this, like it's found support of this highly traded zone, the previous top here. So it would be an okay spot for a bounce, but again, I don't know the bounces are going to last very long. I don't expect this to be a major bottom yet. Home builders. This one hadn't broken last time I did a video, I think. That's last time I looked at it on a video. So that's not good. Again, it needs to really get back through there to actually suggest that the market could turn bullish. Something's broken, we just don't know exactly yet. And there is credit issues, and credit default swaps and stuff like that are really on edge at the moment. This one here is another one that I was looking at the other day offline. It's broken a new low again. Like it's found some structure, broke the low. That actually is quite bearish. Um, it broke this major low too. That was COVID low. Suggesting like this, whatever's going on is major. We just haven't even discovered what the issue is going to be blamed on. I'll tell you what it is, it's freaking credit. But how that's going to actually play out is another thing. DJT gold broke that level as well. Like, the fact that these are still going down and breaking key levels from COVID, that's not a great sign. That's quite bearish. VIX hasn't actually really come back and reset either. So again, this could, like VIX could come down, come back into even this trend line here. I'd say that the 50, somewhere around there, is probably going to be good support for it. But the VIX could come down, reset. If we're hitting key resistance levels on some of the XLY, XLP, XLP versus SPY, then that's going to be a sign that we could be going for another leg to the downside. Just be aware of that. Skew is squarely pointed to the downside at the moment still. We've actually broken this low. That's been a fairly major low. Last time we broke that low was May 22. Technically, it was probably a bit before that, February 22. It was the start of not a nice year, but if you like bull markets. Yeah, the fact global liquidity hasn't really gone massively upside is pointing back to the upside now. Obviously, there's been some change since markets opened. That's not too bad. Like the skews kind of gives you an idea of what might happen next day. So that's the skew from yesterday. The VIX one day though, it is downside as well, and that is live. So when it's going down, markets are generally going up. So this to me suggests we could actually, again, just have at least a couple of days of upside before we find some resistance. They'd be looking for turnarounds on the VIX one day, I think. Have a quick look at accumulation distribution. Yeah. Again, I suspect we're going to make a lower high here and then further downside. It's typically, this is a topping structure. It's unlikely to be a consolidation before further new all-time highs and big upside. All right, have a quick look at other markets. German markets found some resistance at this previous resistance level, suggesting they may actually pull back from there. There's a bit of vector candle recovery to go though. They could get to that green line there. A few gaps up there as well. Chinese market, that's a pretty big gap fill. Looks like it wants to do that gap fill actually. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to that. UK 100. Probably going to struggle around these moving averages. Suspect. Doesn't want to tell me what the news is. Oh, there we go. Right. Yeah, look, Japanese market. That's a great target there with the vector candles. Could do it, but doesn't have to do it now either. Still a lot of downside targets yet. TLT has hit this sort of bottom area again. Yeah, it's probably going to find some support here, but hard to call it at this stage. High yield junk. High yield junk suggesting that this is a real move still. Still be better if it could close a daily above this vector candle here. But again, it's probably going to run into resistance at the moving averages there. LQDIF is positive today so far. Again, it's just so much resistance to get through here for these things. The good news is, like, this is green when markets are green, and if this was red and markets are green, you'd be a little bit more worried. T 10 years finding some support. Yeah, it's an interesting chart, isn't it? Don't expect yields to get back above 3.9 really. 2 year, 10 year, I'd be surprised if they got back much above 4.6 as well. I think they will start to come down, but again, they'll probably start coming down when there's news of a major break of something and the Fed will step in and lower interest rates. Copper, big move up off that low. That was such a good bottom. Love a good bottom. 5. That gap close is probably the target here, I'd say. Again, another couple of days up on this. Dr. Copper's showing the way. But man, that's been a big run. Gap close is going to be a pretty major resistance level, you would think. Previous resistance level as well. Gold we've already sort of covered. Gold versus silver. Again, this was a key break. Typically, after a break like this of silver versus gold, especially a major sort of consolidation level or a major range bottom, that typically leads to another 20 to 50% downside on markets over the coming months. So again, I wouldn't get too excited about us having found the bottom here. US oil. US oil looks like it's kind of trying to get above these short-term moving averages. I'd say this dashed line is the target, 66 and change. 50 moving average there. Maybe push up into the value area low, but it looks like upside is target there. Actually, this my leap. Where's my leap? Damn it. I'll put a trade on later. Been trading the leap contest every now and then when I can remember. Dixie. Wouldn't say this is a super strong level, but what it could be doing here, we could get a little bounce on Dixie just as a retest of that. 99.3, which typically Dixie goes up, stocks goes down, but that correlation hasn't really been working that way lately. I'm actually going to make this a bit of a range because it should be more of a range, I think, just the way that line's traded against in the past. Skip the currencies for now. Euro's pretty extended to the upside. Pullback wouldn't hurt that. Aussie dollar's been going well as well, actually. Again, a bit of a pullback, consolidation in here, back into the 50 moving average, around nearly 62.9 cents would be a good level for it to then bounce and for Dixie to come down harder. So yeah, global liquidity is still just grinding up a little bit. Oh, we've got a new read on this one too, but look at that. Yeah, we've got the December read come through. So average housing prices in Australia has started to roll over. Typically, that happens around bear markets as well. March 2018. We don't go back to the GFC, unfortunately, on that one, but yeah. Wow. US debt balance, credit cards, and auto loans are still going to the upside. US Schiller Home Price Index has ticked up a little bit, actually. Feb. It's coming down, though. It's not, we're not seeing exponential increase like we were here. So this could roll over any time. It's not strong anyway, put it that way. Percentage of stocks above 15 moving average actually came back a little bit yesterday, like you would expect. Doesn't really have to come down and retest this support, but it could find some resistance up around 25% or so. Mag 7 still beaten down pretty hard. Interesting that we hit that level there. 32% drawdown on the Mag 7, and there's still a very high percentage of the S&P 500, and it's a concentrated market. Watch the FX Evolution videos. He does stats around that sort of stuff, and it's not a great sign. Nvidia's got earnings coming up. Tesla's earnings today coming out. Oh, what are we looking at there? Bit of a vector candle recovery could happen here, but could happen both directions. So the 200's sitting, I would expect 250 to be a top on a move today, but I think the options market's expecting anything up to 8% or something in either direction. A move back down into even 214, 215 on Tesla is a possibility today. Whichever way Tesla goes and Google goes, you're probably going to see that in general the stock market will follow for at least a couple of days. It looks like they're trying to put in a higher low on the higher time frames, both of them. Had vector candle recovery here, so Yeah, look, could be an upside move on the way. Just don't throw the house at it. Okay. Speaking of throwing the house at it, Bitcoin's starting to find a bit of resistance here, but it's like probably more of a just a rest, bit of a consolidation on the 15-minute. Triple M. Just gonna. Where's my chat window? It's weird. Oh, hope no one's talking to me. Hope you can all actually hear me. Have any messages saying otherwise? Triple M, been a pretty decent performer. Like, you'd be happy if you bought in here and were holding. Good consolidation level for it too. Previous price action. Again, that to me has been one that suggests maybe the economy isn't quite done yet, just because they're in everything. Whereas Amazon's more of a consumer kind of market. Meta, oh man, needs to find support here. Airbnb, earnings coming up soon. This earnings season is going to be really interesting. I don't know that it will really drive price action too much overall. I think the global macro environment is probably more important, and like pretty well by the sound of it, China's driven everyone that they know to invest in European bonds, which has driven them up, and sort of abandoned the US, but at the same time China's actually buying up US bonds, so they're just getting them at a discount at the moment. Aussie markets, interesting move on that. 8163 could be a target there, probably a little bit higher, 8200. Again, if we don't get any major bad news soon, we could actually get back up and we could sort of be chopping around and grinding up into some of these vector candle recoveries, because there are some vectors near the top in a lot of the key ETFs and things like that. So the next 6 months is going to be critical. It's just whether or not we get major issues showing themselves before we get the bigger moves to the upside. That's about it today, I think. Like, I just can't bring myself to trade ETH, let alone buy it. It's just so finicky. It could go on a pretty good run, like even from here, if we hit that value area high and vector candle recovery, 52%, put something on at 10x and small part of your account, you could literally double your account size easily. Ooh, CME, that's an interesting level. CME is breaking that level there. 88. And it's sort of breaking. This was a previous trend line that we had respected pretty well. Yeah, I still don't know that it's going to hold it, but there's a vector candle recovery on CME. They're up to 98.8. which again ties in with, do we go to that value area high? It's a potential, at least over the next month or so anyway. This here is a bit of potential resistance though too, so I'm still around that 92k mark. I think it's going to be a good take profit level, I think. Could we go higher? Yes. What could we potentially do here would be even break up, sorry, just sort of reject off that level, come down, test this level here, which is a previous volume node, and kind of a breakout test, and then we could actually push up into these areas, and then we just slowly work our way down to another low, and that's going to be a key sort of area for me. But yeah, those that remember back, I had I think it was mid-March was a potential low point. Sorry, a potential top of the market, and I think mid-May was also. Oh no, I think it was out to October. So anyway, it's all bullshit until it actually happens. Right now, the price action suggests that we'll probably find some resistance soon. We could blow straight through that, but sort of a test of this breakout level here, this previous volume node around 87,500 would be a good level to break out of. More importantly, we've actually finally broken out of this downward channel here. That channel was governing price action for so long, and whenever we had broken out of it previously, like here, it didn't take long to get back inside. So yeah, that's a good sign. That is a trend reversal sign for me, but I'm going to be keeping one foot out the door, put it that way. Might even take a little nibble at a short at 92, but a lot of people are going to be eyeing off 96, I think. $100k will freak a lot of people out though. See if we get there. Alright, that'll do. Oh, those that are interested, Sol I do think will get up into 163. Seems to be dragging the chain at the moment. Taking its time to get there. There is a potential of 187 as well on Sol. I wouldn't expect you to get much higher than that, but there's a potential. There's a big wick up here, but if we're hitting that, then Trump will be like a freaking king. He'll have done something that completely turns the market around. Because at the moment, the flows and stuff are just not there to suggest we're going to new all-time highs. All right.